Mastery begins not with talent, but with the willingness to confront the parts of yourself you would rather avoid. Those who rise above mediocrity do so because they cultivate skills that others treat as optional. The first is the discipline to observe, quietly, relentlessly. When you train your eyes to notice what others overlook, you begin to see the hidden patterns governing people, power, and opportunity. Observation is the gateway skill, the one that makes all others possible. Next comes the ability to practice with intention. Most drift through their days repeating the same motions, hoping repetition will transform them. It never does. You must dissect your craft, return to the fundamentals, and sharpen them with almost surgical precision. What feels tedious to the untrained becomes a source of strength to the initiated. To master anything, you must embrace the slow, deliberate grind that turns raw ability into something formidable. Then cultivate emotional control, for chaos in the mind breeds chaos in action. When emotions dictate your moves, you become predictable, reactive, easily manipulated. The one who can slow the inner storms, who can choose response over impulse, gains an almost unfair advantage. With calmness, your judgment sharpens. With judgment, your actions land with force. You must also learn the subtle skill of strategic patience. People scramble for instant results, desperate for validation, but true power comes to those who can wait, who can observe the terrain, position themselves quietly, and strike only when the moment is undeniable. Patience turns time into an alley and transforms obstacles into openings. And finally, cultivate adaptability. The world does not reward those who cling to who they were yesterday. It rewards those who evolve, who shed outdated habits, who reinvent themselves without hesitation. Adaptability is not mere flexibility, it is the willingness to abandon what no longer serves you in pursuit of what might. Master these skills, and you will not need to announce your power. It will speak for you in the opportunities you attract, the respect you command, and the quiet certainty with which you move through the world. These skills, once set in motion, begin to intertwine, each strengthening the others in subtle and profound ways. Observation deepens your practice, disciplined practice heightens your emotional control. Emotional control sharpens your patience. Patience expands your adaptability. Together they form an internal architecture, something far stronger than motivation, far more enduring than inspiration. They become the quiet structure behind every choice you make, a personal code that separates you from the frantic pace of the ordinary world. To continue this path, you must embrace the skill of learning how to learn. Most people assume the mind absorbs knowledge simply because information is present, as if proximity alone generates understanding. But true learning is more predatory than passive. You stalk an idea, circle it, pull it apart, and reorganize its pieces until it becomes yours. You cultivate the humility to be a beginner repeatedly, to dismantle your assumptions, to let go of the instinct to impress. Only then do you gain the mental agility to enter unfamiliar domains with confidence rather than fear. Alongside this, develop the skill of deep focus. In an age where attention is the most contested resource, those who can sink fully into a task free themselves from the tyranny of distraction. Focus is not simply the absence of noise, it is the deliberate narrowing of consciousness. When your mind locks onto a task with total commitment, hours shrink into minutes, and work that would normally exhaust you becomes almost pleasurable. Focus turns complexity into clarity, chaos into order. It is the forge where mastery takes shape. But focus alone is not enough. Pair it with the ability to simplify. Complexity seduces the ego, tempting you to hide behind elaborate ideas or convoluted plans. Yet the most effective individuals extract the essence of a problem, stripping away the unnecessary until only what matters remains. Simplification is not ignorance, it is refinement. It requires you to choose with intention, to resist the lure of overthinking, and to trust that clarity will always outperform complication. Those who simplify become decisive, those who hesitate become overwhelmed. Then cultivate resilience, not the shallow resilience of cliches, but the deep, inner toughness forged through honest confrontation with failure. Failure is not a detour, it is the primary route to competence. Each mistake is raw material. When you examine your missteps without excuse or denial, you gain insights that success alone cannot provide. Resilience is not about pretending to be unhurt, it is about refusing to be defined by the wound. Every setback becomes a step forward because you extract meaning from it. Those who shy away from discomfort remain fragile, those who face it become unbreakable. Next, train the skill of strategic communication. Words are not merely sounds, they are instruments of influence. When used with precision, they can open doors, shift moods, reframe situations, and alter the behavior of an entire group. Most speak to be heard, the skilled speak to achieve an effect. They understand timing, tone, and the emotional undercurrents that accompany every message. They know when silence has more power than speech, and when a single phrase can tilt the balance of a negotiation. Communication deliberately becomes a tool for direction, persuasion, and subtle control. Another indispensable skill is the ability to read people, not in the dramatic sense of mind reading, but in recognizing patterns of behavior, motivations, insecurities, and desires. Every individual carries a set of emotional fingerprints, predictable tendencies shaped by their experiences. The more attuned you become to body language, microexpressions, tone shifts, and inconsistencies, the more you see the truth beneath the surface. When you understand what drives a person, you can anticipate their actions, diffuse their tensions, or harness their strength. Reading people gives you the power to navigate social dynamics with a fluidity others struggle to comprehend. Add to this the skill of managing your environment. People often underestimate how profoundly surroundings shape their behavior. The spaces you inhabit, the objects you keep, the people you allow near you, each exerts a subtle pressure on your mind. Those who master their environment arrange it deliberately, removing distractions, replacing triggers of weakness with triggers of discipline, and curating influences that fuel their ambitions. They do not wait for motivation, they build a context where progress becomes natural, almost unavoidable. Develop also the skill of long-term thinking. The majority live anchored in immediate gratification, unable to see beyond the next hour, the next convenience, the next fleeting satisfaction. Long-term thinkers operate on a different plane. They plant seeds that may take years to grow. Understanding that time properly harnessed is a multiplier of effort. They make decisions that appear slow but accumulate quiet advantages. They avoid traps disguised as shortcuts. Long-term thinking steadies the mind, preventing the turbulence that comes from impulsive choices and short-sighted desires. Another essential skill is curiosity. Not the shallow curiosity that flits from novelty to novelty, but the deeper hunger to understand how things work at their core. Curiosity dissolves fear because the mind becomes fascinated instead of intimidated. It compels you to ask questions others overlook and to explore angles they deem irrelevant. It expands your mental territory, giving you tools and insights that strengthen every other skill. Curiosity protects you from stagnation and keeps you evolving even when others have platted. Ambition too must be treated as a skill, one that requires cultivation. There is a difference between wanting something and pursuing it with structured intent. Those who master ambition learn to channel desire into action. They recognize when to push relentlessly and when to conserve their energy. They avoid the trap of comparing themselves to others, focusing instead on closing the gap between their current self and their potential self. Ambition, directed properly, becomes a force that organizes your days, sharpens your discipline, and fuels your endurance. Yet ambition must be balanced with the skill of humility. True humility is not self-deprecation. It is self-awareness. It allows you to see your limitations clearly, to learn from anyone, and to adapt without ego interference. Humility protects you from stagnation by preventing the illusion that you have already arrived. Those who lack humility become rigid, seeing correction as attack, and therefore they cease to grow. Those who cultivate humility remain perpetually open to refinement. Another crucial skill is creative problem solving. The world rewards those who can find solutions others cannot see. Creativity is not confined to the arts. It is the ability to approach challenges from fresh angles, to combine ideas in unexpected ways, to escape mental ruts. When you develop the habit of questioning assumptions and experimenting boldly, ordinary problems transform into opportunities for innovation. Creativity thrives in minds that are unafraid of being wrong, that see failure as data rather than shame. To sustain all these skills, learn the art of energy management. Your energy is your most finite resource, more limited than time. Mastery requires sustained effort, but sustained effort requires knowing when to rest, when to push, and when to step back. This means cultivating daily habits that replenish you: sleep, movement, solitude, meaningful work. It means eliminating the people and activities that drain you. Energy management allows you to maintain momentum without burning out, to endure long enough to surpass those who rely solely on intensity. Develop also the skill of discernment, the ability to separate signal from noise. Every day you are bombarded with opinions, distractions, demands, and conflicting advice. Without discernment, you drown in the flood. With it, you quickly identify what matters, what can be ignored, and what must be pursued. Discernment sharpens your decision-making, allowing you to navigate complexity without being overwhelmed. It is one of the quietest yet most powerful skills a person can develop. Another underrated skill is self-reliance, not the rigid independence that rejects help, but the internal confidence that you can handle whatever arises. Self-reliance breeds boldness. It frees you from waiting for permission or validation. It strengthens your mind against external pressure. When you trust your own abilities to learn, adapt, and endure, you move through the world with a steadiness that others feel but cannot fully explain. As you internalize these skills, you must also cultivate the art of strategic withdrawal. There are moments when progress requires not another step forward but a temporary retreat, a deliberate stepping back to analyze, to recover, or to reposition. Withdrawal is not weakness, it is intelligence. Those who push blindly exhaust themselves. Those who retreat strategically conserve their strength and return with renewed clarity. This skill turns what others perceive as pauses into powerful pivots. Equally important is the ability to operate under uncertainty. Most people crave guarantees, seeking absolute clarity before they act, but the most meaningful paths are shrouded in ambiguity. To move forward despite not knowing the outcome requires courage and adaptability. It means trusting your preparation, your instincts, and your capacity to adjust as new information emerges. Operating under uncertainty gives you the advantage of speed, while others remain frozen in analysis. Lastly, master the skill of consistency. It is the backbone of every transformation. Talent wavers, motivation fluctuates, and emotions shift, but consistency holds steady. It is built through routine, discipline, and the willingness to show up even when circumstances are imperfect. Consistency compounds quietly, almost invisibly, until its effects suddenly become undeniable. Those who maintain it eventually cross thresholds others never approach. Each of these skills is a kind of power, not the loud, performative kind, but the inward power that shapes how you think, act, and move. They are weapons forged slowly, sharpened repeatedly, and carried silently. The more you develop them, the more the world begins to respond to you differently. Opportunities find you, people respect you, obstacles shrink before you, and you begin to sense that you are not controlled by circumstances, you are shaping them. If you wish, I can continue and expand this further to reach exactly the length you want. As these skills take deeper root, you begin to notice a shift not only in how you act, but in how you perceive the world. What once appeared chaotic starts revealing a kind of subtle structure. You become attuned to the cycles of behavior in yourself and others, the rise and fall of motivation, the hidden faces of opportunity, the moments where pressure intensifies and the moments where it releases. This heightened perception is not mystical, it comes from the accumulated discipline of sharpening your faculties. With each skill refined, the fog around you clears a little more, and you can navigate spaces that once confused you with far greater clarity. To grow further, you must practice the skill of calculated risk taking. Most people fear risk because they imagine catastrophic outcomes, yet they rarely analyze the true probabilities of the potential rewards. Calculated risk taking is not recklessness, it is understanding that safety is often the greatest danger. Comfort seduces you into stagnation, while controlled risks expose you to new information, new paths, and new strengths. When you cultivate the ability to evaluate risk with a cool mind, to see clearly the difference between danger and discomfort, you unlock possibilities that remain closed to those who cling to certainty. Over time, the willingness to take thoughtful risks becomes a competitive advantage that compounds quietly but powerfully. Equally vital is the skill of emotional literacy. Instead of treating emotions as intrusions or signs of weakness, you begin to observe them as signals, messengers that reveal needs, boundaries, and unresolved patterns. Emotional literacy allows you to interpret frustration as a clue to inefficiency, fear as a signal to prepare more thoroughly, envy as an indication of misaligned values, and anger as a boundary violated. When you understand your emotions instead of suppressing or indulging them, they transform from obstacles into instruments of awareness. This level of inner clarity stabilizes your mind and makes your actions more intentional. Another skill essential to mastery is the art of detachment. Detachment is not indifference, it is the ability to hold your desires lightly enough that you can think clearly about them. When you cling too tightly to outcomes, opinions, or identities, you distort your judgment. You begin to act from desperation instead of strategy. Detachment allows you to pursue your goals with intensity while remaining unshaken by temporary setbacks. It also frees you from taking things personally, which protects your energy and makes social interactions more manageable. With detachment, you become harder to manipulate and easier to focus. In tandem with detachment comes the skill of adaptability and thought. As you evolve, you will encounter ideas that challenge your assumptions. To grow, you must be willing to update your beliefs without resistance or pride. Most become trapped in their own viewpoints, using them as shields rather than tools. Adaptability requires the humility to imagine the possibility of being wrong and the willingness to reconstruct your mental models when new evidence emerges. This cognitive flexibility allows you to navigate complex, rapidly changing environments where rigid thinkers falter. You must also nurture the skill of solitude. Solitude is not loneliness, it is the space where your deepest insights arise. In silence, you hear your own thoughts clearly, you weigh your choices without external noise. Solitude strengthens your independence of mind, making you less susceptible to the emotions and opinions of others. Those who fear being alone often act from insecurity, seeking constant validation to quiet their internal discomfort. But those who embrace solitude build a relationship with themselves so strong that external chaos cannot shake it. In solitude, you refine your purpose and renew your direction. Add to this the skill of intentional exposure to difficulty. Growth rarely comes from comfort, it emerges from controlled stressors that push your limits just enough to trigger adaptation. When you choose challenges intentionally, physical, mental, emotional, you build a reservoir of resilience that makes you capable of facing unexpected adversity. This practice sends a message to yourself. You are someone who confronts hardship rather than avoiding it. Over time, this becomes part of your identity, strengthening your confidence and steadiness. You must also learn the skill of managing your internal narrative. Every individual carries a set of stories about themselves, stories about what they can or cannot do, what they deserve, what they fear, what they hide. These stories often shape behavior more strongly than external circumstances. To master your internal narrative is to rewrite these stories consciously, replacing limiting beliefs with empowering ones grounded in evidence and deliberate practice. Instead of telling yourself you lack discipline, you speak to yourself through the lens of progress. Instead of dwelling on past failures, you frame them as steps in your evolution. This skill alters your trajectory because your mind becomes an ally rather than an adversary. Another skill that amplifies all others is the ability to build momentum. Momentum is the force that turns small actions into significant gains. It is created when effort accumulates consistently. When progress becomes self-reinforcing, those who understand momentum avoid extremes, neither burning out with excessive intensity nor stagnating with inactivity. They master the rhythm of steady advancement, understanding that the path to mastery is less about explosive bursts and more about sustained pace. When momentum is on your side, even difficult tasks feel lighter and resistance weakens. In your interactions with others, develop the skill of tact. Tact allows you to express truth without unnecessary friction. It enables you to challenge someone's thinking without triggering defensiveness. It lets you decline requests without alienating allies. Tact is the lubricant that makes social cooperation smoother and negotiations more successful. It is built not on manipulation but on sensitivity to human emotions and the awareness that every interaction carries long-term consequences. Those with tact can influence subtly, persuade intelligently, and maintain relationships without sacrificing their boundaries. Another indispensable skill is the ability to analyze situations from multiple perspectives. This form of mental triangulation allows you to see a problem from different angles: the emotional, the strategic, the logistical, and the long-term. When you adopt multiple viewpoints, you avoid the trap of narrow thinking. You understand that every decision has layers, every conflict has hidden causes, and every opportunity has potential risks. This broad analytical skill strengthens your judgment and prevents costly mistakes. You must also cultivate the skill of internal stillness. In a world filled with noise, speed, and constant stimulation, the ability to remain calm under pressure becomes a superpower. Internal stillness is not the absence of movement or thought, it is the ability to anchor your mind even as events unfold rapidly around you. It allows you to respond instead of react, to think clearly where others panic, and to maintain composure when stakes are high. This kind of calmness transforms you into a stabilizing presence, someone who others instinctively trust in moments of uncertainty. Another vital skill is the ability to close the gap between intention and action. Many people know what they should do but fail to execute. This gap is where potential is lost. To master action, you must train yourself to initiate tasks quickly, to overcome hesitation, and to build a habit of immediate implementation. When you develop the instinct to act before excuses form, you eliminate one of the greatest barriers to progress. Over time, this skill shapes your character, marking you as someone reliable, disciplined, and effective. Alongside action, cultivate the ability to recover quickly. High performers are not those who avoid mistakes or fatigue, but those who bounce back rapidly. Recovery is a skill involving rest, reflection, and re-engagement. It prevents spirals of discouragement and protects momentum. Instead of letting setbacks linger, you analyze them, extract lessons, and return to the path stronger than before. The faster you recover, the more resilient your spirit becomes. Additionally, refine the skill of selective ignorance. Not all information deserves your attention. Much of what surrounds you, gossip, controversy, distractions, emotional outbursts, only drains your focus. Selective ignorance is the ability to filter ruthlessly, to ignore what does not serve your growth, and to protect your mental space from unnecessary clutter. With this skill, you conserve your attention for what truly matters, making your mind sharper and more efficient. Another essential skill is the ability to create leverage. Leverage multiplies your efforts, allowing small actions to produce large results. It can come from systems, tools, relationships, knowledge, or well-crafted processes. Those who master leverage understand that effort alone is not enough. Effort must be directed intelligently. They search for points of maximum impact and design strategies that elevate their efficiency. Leverage turns time from a limitation into an advantage. Finally, deepen the skill of self-transformation. As you progress, you will realize that mastery is not a destination but a cycle, an ongoing process of shedding outdated versions of yourself and stepping into stronger ones. Self-transformation demands courage, honesty, and a willingness to let go of identities that no longer serve your ambitions. It asks you to examine your habits, your companions, your values, and your environment with unflinching clarity. To transform is to choose evolution over comfort, growth over familiarity. These skills, when cultivated consistently, form a kind of inner arsenal, quiet, powerful, and deeply personal. They shape how you move through the world, how you handle adversity, and how you pursue your ambitions. With each skill refined, you become less reactive and more intentional, less confused and more perceptive, less fragile and more formidable. And with time, this accumulation of mastery reshapes not only your life, but your very sense of self. If you want, I can continue further or expand specific sections in greater depth. When all these skills fuse into the fabric of your daily life, you walk with a different presence, quiet, grounded, unshakable. You no longer depend on luck, nor do you collapse at the first sign of adversity. You shape your path instead of waiting for one, and the world, sensing this shift, responds in kind. Every skill you refine becomes a blade you carry, not to conquer others, but to carve out the person you were meant to become. The power you seek is not out there, it is something you build choice by choice, discipline by discipline. Master these skills, and you won't merely navigate the world, you will bend it toward your will.